What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news and updates. And of course this week the tone has been set once again, as we hear more negative news out of Bungie. And there's an article that we've covered in the past day or so that indicates that morale is at an all-time low for staff at Bungie, following the layoffs that they saw a few weeks back. But also indications that Sony could completely take over Bungie if they don't meet their financial targets in the next few months. And it's a funny time because of course all of this is happening around the start of a new season, which while it doesn't break the expected mold for seasonal content in Destiny, has certainly done a couple of things right in terms of activities, the new dungeon, the coil, but also a fairly massive increase in communication from the Bungie team in relation to community support and feedback, which creates this sort of weird mix of things going on. Both big positives and things that we've been asking for quite some time, but all of that of course coming alongside some big negatives in the news. Today though, nonetheless, we do have a few further updates from Bungie. There's going to be another patch for the game, plus Bungie have made a series of changes including switching up the Iron Banner mode. We'll also discuss an upcoming Season of Undying bundle, which will be pretty similar to the Worthy flashback we saw last season, so we'll discuss the implications of that and a few other things. So as always, I hope you guys enjoy the video, and firstly, Destiny 2 is going to get yet another update this week. So we had a hotfix on Tuesday, but it looks like later on today we'll get update 7302. And we don't know exactly what the changes will be there, but I'll keep you posted with patch notes. And it's safe to say Bungie are responding to feedback and issues in the game pretty quickly at the moment. And something else worth highlighting here, but the Fireteam Finder beta is now active in the game, and this will run until Friday afternoon Pacific time with all activities enabled. So following on from the raid stress test, one of the success stories of the season so far is that Fireteam Finder actually appears to be working pretty well. And the beta is now live until the end of the week in essentially fully functional form. So let us know if that's something you'll be taking advantage of in the next couple of days. And up next, another quick update from Bungie Help. They've said, we're aware that the Wish Fulfilled seasonal challenge currently requires players to earn all of the seasonal challenges, and a fix is scheduled for mid-January that will reduce this number to align with previous seasons. And that will allow players to skip a few and still unlock the challenge. So just keep in mind, not all of the challenges will be required for that, but we can essentially continue to work toward it, and the total requirement will be reduced in January, allowing us to fully unlock it. Up next though, the Destiny 2 team on Twitter continues to communicate pretty frequently with the community, and they've said based on early player responses, we're replacing Iron Banner Tribute with Iron Banner Control for the rest of the week. So Iron Banner will now be Control instead of Tribute, and they say we created Tribute as a spin-off of Supremacy with a twist on Crest Collection, but feedback so far is clear that the new mechanic could use more time for tuning, and with just a couple of days of data, we're seeing far more matches end in mercies and shutouts than expected. And we'll be addressing issues related to scoring and pacing for the next time Tribute comes to Iron Banner. This includes adjusting the score threshold for winning, the crest thresholds for triggering the hunt phase, dunk times, and overall clarity of the objectives. And they point out that Iron Banner is intended to be a celebration of PvP, and we want to make sure everyone is having a positive experience when playing it. So look out for an improved Iron Banner Tribute experience when we bring it back in the future. And generally over the past few days, the feedback for Tribute hasn't been super positive. The concept of the game mode in itself isn't necessarily a huge issue, and it does have the potential to be fun, but as Bungie have highlighted right there are multiple issues with scoring, objectives, and the ways that players engage with that kind of mode as well. So they're going to look to solve some of those problems in the weeks before Tribute returns. So let us know your thoughts about that. And the next thing I wanted to point out, but many of you guys will remember last season, we got a Season of the Worthy flashback bundle where players could acquire a bunch of items from Season of the Worthy once again. But of course, those items were fairly expensive inside of the Eververse store, and a whole bunch of things that were originally part of a $10 season pass ultimately ended up costing considerably more than that in order to reacquire last season. And it looks like a similar thing is planned for this season, which is flashback Season of the Undying. And of course, this ties in with some of the themes Bungie are using this season. And as far as we know, it will contain the phenotype armor, which was pretty popular from that season and doesn't have another source right now. And according to Game Rant, if players want to grab the phenotype plasticity set for each class, they're looking at a $45 expense. I'm not sure which other items may be available inside of that bundle, but the article does point out, considering how it went with the Season of the Worthy bundle, the Undying flashback event could garner the same bad publicity for the game. Of course, the costs may be adjusted, and I would certainly welcome that if Bungie insist on selling these items. We don't know exactly what those costs will be just yet, but it'll be be interesting to see what Bungie do here, as last week when the season launched, Bungie released that starter pack that contained a bunch of items that weren't really that helpful for folks starting out in Destiny, and of course it was fairly expensive, but following feedback, Bungie decided to take that out of the game. So it'll be interesting to see whether Bungie go ahead and post the Undying flashback event, whether the costs are adjusted, or indeed left the same, or potentially scrapped altogether. I would certainly say, please Bungie, don't make another poor choice with this one, as of course it's simply more fuel to the fire, considering how the community feels at the moment. And early this week, we got that IGN article that says that atmosphere in the studio is soul-crushing, but also it indicated that there's a significant risk that if Bungie doesn't perform, that Sony could strip the board and basically take over Bungie altogether. And there's mixed feedback in the community as to whether that would be a good or bad thing. But we've spoken about all of that, it isn't positive news, and it indicates that the turmoil for Bungie will continue leading up to and beyond the final shape. And who knows what will happen with Destiny as a franchise, Bungie as a studio, and the relationship between Sony and Bungie in that time. But it's frustrating in many ways because, as we've seen, for people still playing the game at the moment, Bungie's communication has actually been really solid in the past week or so, particularly in relation to gameplay and problems with Destiny, in the new content in particular. And looking at their updates initially, there was the starter pack which they took away, but also they've spoken about the seasonal content, the quests, returning to the blind well, issues that players have with that, problems with the coil activity, concerns about sandbox elements and weapons in the season, anti-barrier sidearms, giving teasers for the dungeon, PvP strike team updates. Plus they've been really communicative about Fireteam Finder and other sandbox elements like the orb cooldown, where they plan to make further updates in the coming weeks. And then, of course, the recent communication about Iron Banner. And it's frustrating because all of this past year or so, Bungie's communication was just cut in half, and community leaders and managers weren't able to talk with the community. And a lot of the feedback that the now laid off community managers had given to Bungie has finally been considered, and the community team has been allowed to start implementing changes. But all of that follows the layoffs, and it's now happening alongside a lot of bad press for the game. So it's frustrating for players who are still playing, because this is what we've wanted to see for quite some time. And now, of course, Bungie are increasing those efforts, all while player numbers have declined for a new season, and we're seeing the continuation of bad press about the internal struggles at Bungie. So it's frustrating, but gotta give massive credit to the teams at Bungie who are working really hard trying to keep things stable, while the higher-ups are scrambling to try and stop Bungie losing its independence entirely. So yeah, again, we're in this sort of weird situation where there are a bunch of positives that we've been asking for quite some time, and they're sort of being offset by the general mood and the negative press around Bungie at the moment. Give us your thoughts about it down below, but of course it looks like we'll probably get more news today with the update. There's also the Game Awards, where Bungie received that nomination for Best Community Support, and I know some of the folks who worked at Bungie previously will even be present at the Game Awards. So that could be a whole separate conversation that happens later today, and of course there'll also be the Twid. So there's more news and conversation to come before Bungie go quiet for the holiday season. So definitely stay tuned here on the channel and I'll keep you posted. But otherwise, give us your thoughts down below, and if you've enjoyed this update video, a rating really helps us out as well. But otherwise, I appreciate you tuning in today, and I will catch you guys very soon.